Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Commerce Next co-founder Veronica Sansev. Thank you so much for joining us today. For any new participants, Commerce Next is a community, event series, and conference for marketing, e-commerce, and technology leaders, retail and direct-to-consumer brands. It is my pleasure to welcome you to today's webinar. Our topic is Humanizing e-commerce, combining UGC and AI for full funnel success. As AI automates more and more of the marketing funnel, we risk customer interactions feeling robotic or impersonal. And while AI has the power to create great efficiency, brands also need to keep marketing authentic and emotionally engaging. Today, we're going to discuss how the combination of UGC and AI has the potential to unlock this challenge, and how the two can be used hand in hand to acquire customers and build lasting loyalty. I'm excited to cover this topic today, but before we dig in, I want to walk through a few quick thank yous and announcements. So first, I want to thank Bazaar Voice. It has been a pleasure to partner with them on this webinar. This webinar is made possible through the support of our sponsors, and we're grateful for them. I want to thank our speakers, Vivian Chang, Vice President of E-commerce at GNC, Sabrina Cherubini, SVP of Brand and Digital at Hanky Panky, Amanda Sanella, Head of E-commerce at Spartan Races, and Maina Wouters, Vice President of Retail and Client Insights at Bazaar Voice. I also want to thank our amazing team, Alan, Tracy, Corey, Robert, Scott, and Jenny, who are working behind the scenes to make this webinar possible. And finally, I want to thank you, the audience, for joining us today. Now, here's what is coming up next at Commerce Next. Our May 21st webinar is on Shopify for Enterprises ? This webinar features Steve Madden, and it will explore the appropriateness of Shopify for enterprise-sized e-commerce businesses. Commerce Next co-founder Scott Silverman will be leading the discussion. He's joined by John Grigson, VP of International at Steve Madden, Colleen Waters, VP of E-commerce at Steve Madden, and Paul Zingley, CEO of Run D2C. This is a very interesting discussion. You're not going to want to miss this one. Register by clicking on the link in the chat. Now, speaking of things you don't want to miss, it's time to register for our big event, the Commerce Next Growth Show. It takes place June 24th and 26th in New York City. Registration is free for leaders at scaled retail and D2C brands. We also have an amazing travel program, which provides up to $1,200 in travel reimbursement in exchange for participating in our one-on-one meeting program. The deadline for the travel reimbursement, or applying for the travel reimbursement, is May 23rd, so you definitely want to register soon. And of course, we have another fantastic lineup for the Growth Show, including here are just some of the amazing speakers. They include Kelly Mahoney, CMO of Ulta, Joe Kudla, founder and CEO of Buori, Fiona Tan, CTO of Wayfair, Craig Brommers, CMO at American Eagle, Kim Waldman, Global Chief Customer Officer at Foot Locker, Tom Ward, EVP and Chief Operating Officer at Sam's Club, just to name a few. To register, you can go to commercenext.com, or you can look for the link in the chat. Now, if you missed any of our past sessions or you want to brush up on any topic, our YouTube channel is a wealth of information. We have over 500 videos available on digital commerce. You can go to youtube.com/commercenext to see the entire video archive. And I'm just going to walk through a couple housekeeping items and then we'll get started. So first of all, don't worry if you miss anything. We are recording this webinar and we will make it available by tomorrow. I'm going to quickly show you where everything is on the screen and then we'll get started. So first of all, you are in Big Marker, and the main panel for interactivity is on the right. From there, you can see there's chat. Chat is where you can engage with other attendees or give a shout out to our speakers. But if you have a question, we ask you to use the Q&A tab. And that's because we have some additional functionality in the Q&A tab that will be beneficial. But before I go into that, I want to quickly say that we love questions at Commerce Next. We want the audience to be an active part of the webinar. That's why we always do these live. I will be looking at the Q&A tab during the panel, and I will be actively pulling out questions for the panelists. So it's a great opportunity to get any burning questions answered by executives who have had experience in this topic. And the way that I know which questions are the most important is by upvoting the questions. So that functionality, any questions posted in the Q&A tab can be upvoted, and then I know what you guys think are most important and will prioritize those questions. Now, As an added incentive to encourage you to ask questions, we are giving away a solo Mesa stove. To enter to win, you just post a question in the chat the way you would normally do that. Questions that are then posed to the panel are essentially your entry to win. So this giveaway is open to eligible participants in the US and Canada, and each question you ask boosts your chance to win. Later in the webinar, we're going to have polls. The live questions appear as a pop-up, so you won't miss them. But if you want to see the final results as they're coming in, you want to go to the polls tab. And then finally, we have the handouts. In this section, you'll be able to download the slides from today, as well as a couple of handouts from Bazaar Voice. And then for those who watch this on replay, that link to the handouts is at the bottom of the player. So today's agenda, we have a presentation by Maina Wouters, Vice President of Client Strategy and Insights at Bazaar Voice. Then we have audience polls, and then the panel discussion with GNC, Hanky Panky, Smart and Races, and Bazaar Voice. And now it's with great pleasure that I introduce our first speaker, Maina Wouters, Vice President of Retail Strategy and Insights at Bazaar Voice. Maina will share how combining UGC with AI can help deliver full funnel success. Maina, the stage is all yours.
Thank you, Veronica. I appreciate it. Like Veronica said, I'm Maina Wouters. I'm the Vice President of Client Strategy and Insights for Retail at Bazaar Voice. And I'm super excited to go over some tidbits here with you guys today. Just a little bit of background about me. I have spent my entire career in the content space. I've worked under the pillars of marketing, digital, and merchandising, and I have held leadership roles both on the retail and the brand side, including at Lowe's and Electrolux. And I'm just primarily known for bringing together brand and customer voices to create really impactful retail experiences. So enough about me. Today, we're going to talk about two big game changers in the e-commerce landscape, and that is user-generated content and AI. And most importantly, how they come together to drive results. So I thought the best way to articulate this is really through a case study that illustrates the importance of consistent and compelling content journey. And it is a true case study, but we have anonymized it to protect the brands that have been involved in this. But it is a major CPG brand that recently launched a new product, and it is a plant-based probiotic ice pop, so very niche. They backed this with a very large national media budget, and they rolled out with social ads, with heavy pay media to support and drive awareness around a very unique product. And honestly, it worked. The campaign caught consumers' attention. But when we arrived at the digital shelf, this is what we saw. Can you give this a click for me, Rob? Yeah. So reviews are UGC and are intended to build shopper trust. And the brand got me to the point, or got the shopper to the point of interest, but they couldn't land the plane anymore. So you can see on the left, we've got our defending ice pop brand, and we've got far fewer star ratings and reviews. And we've got this attacker brand on the right-hand side here, which is doing much better in terms of overall positive reviews and the volume of reviews there. And so they are the ones that really won the moment, because if as a shopper, you see the two, which one are you going to gravitate towards? Obviously, we all are influenced by other people's ratings, reviews, and the shared content. And that's exactly what won in this space. And so the media attacker did invest in, the paid media, but they did that more effectively because they used UGC. And so the story here is that it should be a clear reminder that while awareness is important, it needs to be coordinated for a full funnel content conversion impact. So let's go ahead and go through how you can harness some of what your voice of the consumer is saying and showcase your brand and products wherever your shoppers are really throughout the funnel. So we're going to start with awareness. One common challenge that we're seeing brands face is being able to build equity and drive awareness around unique product attributes. And there's tons of ways that we see brands attempt this. But what we're seeing very specifically right now is that creators are really uniquely positioned to help deliver those messages. And 75% of marketers say that creator content right now is essential to achieving their full funnel marketing strategy and is disproportionately good at spiking awareness. So they're creating really high quality content that's engaging and tells a compelling brand story through their own authentic voice. And so when you combine that with your core sort of creative initiatives, the same activations that you've been using in the past, they help extend your reach and deepen your impact. So let's move on to conversion. Consideration. We'll get to conversion. Content becomes even more important here because it needs to be compelling enough and aligned to your customer's mindset. This is where you would really want to think about planning moments. And these are key moments in your shopper's life. They could be an event, it could be a season, they could be just simply solving an everyday problem, and you want to be there for that. So you want to attach your brand to these moments by understanding the need states of your and usage occasions, really, of your shoppers and as they're navigating that. And so a planned holistic content strategy is going to help you deliver across those channels, and it's going to keep a steady drumbeat of content that's really thoughtful and relevant throughout the year. And that content should really be showing up across all of your digital properties. They should be this interconnected, interwoven storyline and experience that your customers can interact with across social, search, in the inspiration galleries, in the retail environment, when they're finding you through media, et cetera, et cetera. So ultimately, what we want to click down into is conversion, which I mentioned just a minute ago. It's really content. This content nowadays is much more impactful in moving consumers from consideration to taking action and really moving them towards conversion. And that digital shelf, so your PDP, your product detail pages, are the moment of truth when that happens. This is where your brand really gets the opportunity to land the plane. It's where we should see the content to reinforce the consumer's decision to buy. And something that we're seeing very impactful at this moment is contextualized UGC. So that's going to be authentic reviews and rich content that's tailored to your customers' needs and helps them make the difference between bouncing and buying. And this contextualization is moving us towards 4 times or more conversion impact when we see reviews, as well as this more robust content present on PDPs. And AI is really powering that contextualization further. So it's going to be things like, you've got great amount of reviews. Let's summarize those reviews and show consumers in general what people are saying about a product, what's good, what's bad, to help them understand if that's the right product for them. Their AI is also answering shopper questions in a really timely manner, so that you're not having to hire additional resources to go and answer those questions within about that 24-hour sort of time frame that we have to get back to consumers. And it's providing them with more detail and the right details at the right moments. And so this is what we're seeing on the PDP across PLPs as well, and checkout pages. And it's being amplified through chatbots and other types of served content. So AI is really becoming embedded in the way that we scale our content, and we get the right content in front of the right consumer at the right moment. And ultimately, we're impacting conversion across that omni-channel shopping experience. So when the PDP is truly delivering on the promise of your upper funnel messaging, that's when you're seeing our ability to convert interest into action. So next slide for me, Rob. I mentioned this concept of contextualization. So I want to dive into this one a little bit more, because frankly, that's where we're seeing a lot of AI impacts, but also to clarify that it's not personalization. Unlike personalization, which relies on true personal data like names, locations, and shopping history of your consumer, contextualization is about reading this shopper's behavior in real time. So that means we're going to be analyzing clicks, scrolls, hovering, what they've searched for, and then trying to anticipate if they have purchase intent or if they're likely to abandon their cart or abandon the site. And so you're going to think about contextualization as their digital body language. It's the same concept as having an in-store associate present and in front of your customer to help them understand if it's the right product for them, to encourage them, or even provide a recommendation. It is one of AI's most significant current contributions to the shopper journey, because what makes this tool so powerful is that it works even when the shopper is anonymous. You're not having to rely on cookies or CRM data to tailor the experience based on what they're doing. You can actually do that on their behavior right in this moment. And that means that you're able to deliver really relevant, meaningful experience for all of your shoppers, those that you know, but also those that you don't know. And that's something that we've had a lot of difficulty doing in scale prior to this moment. Next slide for me, Rob. So it's not, I want to like really draw the thread here. Contextual commerce isn't just an AI tool. It is a true decision-making engine for your consumers. And what makes it really remarkable in the case of BV's contextual commerce tool that we have is that it's watching the shopper behavior as it happens. And in the case of our solution, there's over 500 behavioral signals per second that are determining the best way to move that shopper further into the funnel and closer to conversion. So if the tool recognizes that a shopper is in need of extra motivation or extra assurance, and it may choose to encourage them with a review, it might pop up a social image or a promotion or some other sort of content technique. And it's based on an extensive library of really proven conversion drivers across industries, things like urgency cues and social proof, delight moments, loyalty nudges, just a variety of cues that help us understand what that consumer might want in that moment, and allowing the engine to be educated to help them be, quote unquote, sort of nudged in the right direction. And so as it's always learning, it gets sharper. And it's not just from your data on site, but it's learning across those 500 million shoppers each month across the BV network. And so we're consolidating, we're aggregating, and we're making sure that machine continues to learn so that we future-proof your business. And this is one of the ways that we're doing that. So it's a really incredible lever for e-commerce leaders and marketing managers to be able to pull that we haven't had the ability to do previously, and is now really within our tool belt and our arsenal of things that we can help just drive loyalty, drive conversion, and gain consumer trust. So give me the next slide, Rob. I'm just going to show us a great anonymized example of what it looks like in action. So what you're seeing here is something called the social comments slider, and it's going to highlight real-time social proof from customers who are talking about the product. And so there's an array of techniques that we can use. This is one of them, but it's subtle and it is powerful in that moment. If you remember in the consideration stage, we talk about being there in the moment. This sort of AI tool is what allows us to do that at scale. And so what the customer is going to be able to see is that it's shoppers just like them are buying the product and they're talking about it with their friends, their families, with their followers. And so by presenting that UGC at the right moment to the right shopper, that product's credibility becomes increased and the hesitation is really transformed into confidence based on what they're being shown. Next slide for me, Rob. So this is another example, but a different technique in contextual commerce. And this one's focused around reviews. And so what you see here is a PDP module that uses the BV AI toolkit to analyze all the reviews and automatically pull out those key highlights. And I had mentioned that earlier as we got kicked off. So instead of making a shopper scroll through hundreds, hopefully thousands of reviews on your product, you're able to give them sort of the quick hits. What's the snapshot of what people are saying about the product? What do they love? What's the sizing like? Is the color true? How does it taste? Can I trust it? What are the different quality components? It's bringing those right to the surface so that we're aiding them in making the right choice for them at that stage in their decision-making journey. So it's really timing is everything. The slider only shows up when a shopper might need a nudge. And that's really true of our contextual commerce engine. We're not going to bother a customer who's already good. They don't need our help. They know what they want. They're headed to their car. They're living large. They're gonna go on with the rest of their life, and they're going to be happy with their product because they felt good about it. These cues, these nudges, are only there when we see that there may be some hesitation, or they're sort of flip-flopping back and forth between a couple of different products. So let's show them something that's going to help them make a decision. That's really what's powerful about contextual commerce. It's being there essentially for your consumer and letting AI help us do that across all of our consumer sets. So it's not pushing a product. It's really about making the experience feel natural and motivating. Next slide for me, Rob. So, okay, it all sounds good, right? But what does it really do? And the conversion results are really compelling. We're seeing, on average, clients with this tool in place are seeing over a 7% increase in revenue per session lift in just year one. And some brands are actually seeing as much as 13%, which is just absolutely massive when you think about that at scale. So what's even more powerful here is that as it continues to learn from your consumers, those that are abandoning, those that are checking out, it's really getting smarter. It's refining what to show them, when to show it, and to whom. And the results are, like I said here, really, really compelling in terms of revenue per session. And when you explode that out just on your top line sales impact, it's very significant. All right, next slide for me, Rob. All right, so let's jump back over to this PDP, a different PDP than I talked about earlier, but a PDP nonetheless, and just sort of assess how these forms of UGC and AI contextualization can really come together to create an optimized experience. A great PDP is doing more and should be doing more than just displaying your product. It is your opportunity to build trust with your consumer. It will do all the things that we've talked about. It should have ratings and reviews. It should have review summaries. It should have really great branded content. It should have really great social content around what that product is, great question and answers, all giving shoppers the confidence to purchase based on the information that is there, and fully aligning with everything that you've shown them in every other channel and at every other part of the funnel. This is sort of your make or break moment. So it's imperative that that digital shelf captures them and they say, okay, listen, everything that I've seen so far lines up. I know I can trust this brand. I know I can trust this product. This is the one for me. Let me get out of here. So they really want to see that real people are buying and loving the product. And that's what a lot of this UGC is showing them to help them get over the hump. And when you pull all of that visual UGC together, we see upwards of a 169% lift in conversion. I've seen it at 140% in previous roles. And I can tell you it's a very real figure, even if it feels very large. If you're making sure that you're pulling all of your available levers, you're paying attention to what your customer needs, and you're nudging them in the right direction. It's that kind of visual validation that someone's seeing a product in someone else's home, their opinion of that product is having a massive impact on building that trust. And that is what your PDP should be in reinforcing you at the end stage of the customer's shopping journey. Okay, next slide for me. All right, so I'm going to pull us back through to this case study. If you remember probiotic ice pop from earlier, once this brand actually recognized what they needed to do to improve their presence on the digital shelf, they really went hard on making sure that they were optimizing UGC on their product pages. They were doing everything that they needed to do around awareness campaigns on social media, collecting those authentic reviews, delivering sort of on that AI optimized UGC contextual commerce experience. And they closed the gap. And you can see the result there, where they really ramped up on not just their volume, but they were able to get good reviews on their products to further enhance their customers' confidence in this new product that they were launching. So I'd say, looking forward, we need to think more about how shoppers are experiencing your content and your product across the funnel, and how we contextualize that for them going forward across every part of your e-commerce landscape. And so their expectations are going to continue to change. They're going to get harder, they're going to get higher, they're going to want more content. This is a way for you guys to future-proof your businesses by making sure that you're leveraging these two things, these UGC and this AI, together in sort of this powerhouse ecosystem that's going to supercharge your customers' confidence and that level of trust that they have in existing products or new products. And so to do that, you can not having to rely on third-party data, but really having your own set of data, your own set of behaviors that you can quickly get to and be nimble is going to be absolutely imperative and should be inherent in the way that you're thinking about content going into the future. All right, so last slide for me, Rob. Got some key points here, some takeaways from today's discussion. I'm not going to drain these for you, but what I'll say is these strategies are not just about better content. They're really about better timing, smarter delivery, and meeting your consumer right where they are in their shopper journey. If you can combine them, like I said, with that intentional storytelling, you will be better positioned to stay ahead of the curve and set yourself up for success in really what is becoming this next chapter of e-commerce. And that is it for me. Back over to you.
Awesome. Thank you, Amina, sorry, thank you. It was a great presentation. I think you did a great job kind of showing how the blend of the two are so important. Before we go into the audience polls, we had a question from Chris Perota. He's the VP of Digital Experiences at Slideshow. And he was actually referring to your first case study, which was also your last slide, and how you showed the brand's big ad spend was losing to a rival because of the higher average star ratings. And then later on, you demoed an example where on the product page, it spotlights just a single user-generated testimonial. He's asking, because FTC consumer reviews and testimonials rules say that you must show the whole body of genuine reviews available and bans incentives tied to positive feedback, how can a small brand like Slideshow safely highlight one glowing quote or only favorable influencer content, you'll stay compliant and still drive conversion? So I guess he's saying, like, how is that kind of pop-up compliant with the FTC consumer reviews and testimonial rules?
Yeah, so a couple things. When we talk about sort of that pop-up, there's a couple of things. You can show that whole review if you've got the right review there. And sort of, I think what he means is sort of that contextual commerce piece where you can pop up that review. I think that's what he's referring to. And you can actually show the right review if you've got a number of reviews to select from. And so there's an opportunity to do a lot of moderation to make sure that we've got the right one. We wouldn't necessarily be picky and choosy. We've got to be, to his point, making sure that we're showing authentic content. And so we've got a lot of tools on the back end. It's constantly learning what that consumer needs to hear to make a decision. It could be that they make a decision to say that's not the right product for me. But what that does is it builds trust, because we're not showing you just only the good. We legally couldn't do that anyway, to his point. So there are opportunities to show that right pop up in the full amount of that review. But I think that's under the assumption that a review would be what that consumer needed. Maybe that's not what that consumer needed based on all of the other behaviors we've seen them do. Maybe they already scrolled down and looked at the AI summary. Maybe they looked at reviews. So they don't need a review anymore. They need something else, around there's only so many left in stock, or don't forget that you've got this in your cart. They may need those other sorts of triggers to help them make a decision. But everything that we have designed on the back end and how that contextualization is continuing to learn and is being moderated is fully compliant with FTC. We take it very, very seriously. We would never do anything that would go against that. And we're constantly monitoring both the tool and FTC guidelines to make sure that we're compliant. And I think the second part of the question was, what could a small brand do? And what I'll say is, for that one, you need to sweat your assets. You're not going to be able to do all of this as a small brand with a limited budget. We see that a lot. So my suggestion is always work with your third-party partner, hopefully that's BV, to make sure that they understand your goals, what your budgets are, and where you think you can get the most value, knowing about your consumer. So potentially that means, look, heavily invest in something like incentivization to get more reviews so that you could eventually power something like contextual commerce. And so they need to understand and act as a strategic business partner for you to ensure that they're aligned to your goals and they're suggesting solutions that are aligned to your goals and your budget.
Awesome. Thank you, Mina. I appreciate you answering that Chris's question. I'm going to quickly do polls, and then we'll bring you back up with the rest of the panelists for the discussion. Wonderful. All right. So I'm going to just do 2 polls for the sake of time because we have a lot to cover. My first question is, where in the purchase funnel do you currently use user-generated content? And I just want to reemphasize that, like here, when we're referring to user-generated content, we're looking at reviews, we're looking at customer photos. So all of the things that consumers create, anything that is created by a consumer. And the options are A, awareness, which is in the marketing creative. B is interest consideration, that's on the e-commerce site. C is intent evaluation, so trigger-based marketing for add to cart. D is purchase, so that the checkout flow. E is retention, which would be anything post-purchase, any post-purchase communication on customer satisfaction or repeat business. It looks like, based on this survey, the top 2 choices are basically equally split. Awareness and consideration are both 36%, which makes a lot of sense. We actually asked the same question last month on our last webinar, and it was pretty similar. So awareness and interest / consideration are the 2 ways that people primarily are using UGC. I'm going to skip question 2. Question 3 is related to our next webinar, which is Shopify for Enterprise. It features Steve Madden and Run DTC. And the question is, what e-commerce platform are you currently using? There's a long list here. I'm going to quickly read it. Adobe Commerce, which is formerly Magento, BigCommerce, Commerce Tools, Salesforce Commerce Cloud, which is formerly Demandware, SAP Commerce Cloud, which is Hybris, Scale, Shopify Plus, VTEX, or other, which you can specify in the chat. And the overwhelming majority are 55% are on Shopify Plus. The second largest is other. So we'll have to see what you guys are putting in the chat. You guys can specify. Oh, custom platform in some cases. Okay. All right. Awesome. Well, thank you. Kind of switch back here. I'm now going to have Rob bring up the panelists so we can start the discussion. All right. Take this out. Did we lose Vivian? Oh, nope, there we go. All right, everyone's here. Awesome. Great. So thank you all for joining us. We met Maina earlier, so I want to quickly introduce the retail panelists. We have Vivian Chang, she's the VP of e-commerce at GNC. Sabrina Cherubini, she's the SVP of brand and digital at Hanky Panky. And then Amanda Sanella, head of e-commerce at Spartan Races. Welcome.
Thank you.
Hi. Hey, everyone.
So in Mina's presentation, she went through actually a lot of data on kind of what what they see in terms what Bazaar Voice sees in terms of improved conversion rate and from user generated content. I wanted to ask, and actually, Mina, is there any other data that you want to share that kind of shows that any specific signs that consumers want more authentic content? I know you had a lot of statistics already in your presentation. I wasn't sure if there was anything else that you want to kind of expand on.
I could go on and on and on. So I don't want to drain it here because I think we've got lots of questions. Overall, generally though, more than it just being directional data, we're seeing that the vast number of consumers are demanding some form, right? And so I think it breaks down into what forms and what generation. More and more though, I will say that it's video content. That video content, short form and long form video content, depending on platform, and making sure that it's fit for platform content is really what we're seeing them ask for. So it would depend on channel, and it would depend on consumer category, etc. Depending on sort of just the different data points. So I mean, I would need to pull up a long list of data that I've got someplace else on my computer to be able to be really fully accurate. But overall, that's generally what we're seeing is that it's got to be the right content. Generally, visual content is the big one, and making sure that it's relevant at the right moment. So just make sure that we're future proofing, particularly for the new generations.
Absolutely. And actually, the poll that I skipped just because of time was asking people what kind of user generated content they currently collect, and whether it's, reviews, video content, photos. So yeah, I'm sure there's nuances to it all depending on the type of content. Anyone else kind of have any thoughts or additions to this? I know, Amanda, you've seen a lot of success with testimonials at Spartan Races.
We have. And kind of alluding to what someone had posted in the chat about the FTC guidelines. So we have event pages talking about, right, the locations that we're having events in. And one of the things that we do is actually a conglomerate review score. So every time someone has previously raced that venue, we collect their star rating. And then what we do, just for more limited space and more highlights of particular reviews, we actually do a testimonial section that is a smaller selection of, and we do a variance of selecting, this was the best day ever, but then also, I didn't think about parking beforehand. So we will leave testimonials and things on there, again, to build that trust that Mina was talking about. And we, in terms of, certain metrics that we were seeing by putting these testimonials and the conglomerate score for reviews, was when we introduced those two event pages, we actually saw time on page increase, which, right, once you're on to a PDP, they're kind of in consideration phase. And so that was a really positive indicator that was helping them to make their decision.
Makes a lot of sense. And I like that metric for understanding kind of whether consumers are using it, the time on page, as a way to help them kind of study and learn the consideration.
I want to, Veronica, if I want kind of jump in on what Mina said also, just like she was talking about the type of content that you have, like video, stills, etc., but also kind of the formats of what the customer is looking for, right? So if you think about, like, I'm in Intimate, so using user generation, like UGC, for like education at some point. Like it could be tutorials. We know on TikTok, like video tutorials work very well because they're looking for some kind of inspiration or education. But then when it goes to our own channels, what I really realize is it depends a lot on the category you're talking about. So we launched Swim, for example. On Swim, we see that UGC, either videos or photos, etc., it helps our customers to see how the product fits, on a real woman, not just the 1, 2, or 3 models that we will have during our photo shoot. But if you take another category, which will be like solutions, you're pregnant, or I don't know, you're going through menopause, etc. You want to learn about this from other women going through that too, right? So And our results are different, right? When we test UGC versus our own content, we don't get the same results depending on which category or which life stage the customer is at. So it's like something that I wanted to bring here, just like do not read just one test, right? Like really understand what the customer is going through and what they're looking for, and then bring the right content at the right moment, on top of being, part of their funnel, purchase funnel.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I think that kind of speaks to the contextualization that Maynard referred to in her
Mhm.
presentation. It's almost like reading their digital body language and what they need at that time to help them make the purchase. And it's going to be different depending on the category of product, and also
Mhm.
different depending on their own kind of personal needs and situation. Um, I want to quickly I want to talk about the different stages with which you can use user generated content. I think, obviously a lot of people use it on the product detail page, but user generated content also serves different purposes throughout the customer journey. The two most popular ones in the survey were for the awareness and the consideration stage. Vivian, I want to start with you on this one. Could you share an example of how you've successfully deployed UGC on that awareness stage, versus the consideration or loyalty stage of the e-commerce site?
Yeah, sure. I think for UGC, we're thinking about it fairly broadly. So it's not just on-site UGC ratings and reviews, or pulling in from social, but it's also the off-site part of it. And that's where we're seeing a lot of success. And so on TikTok, we have gone all in on a couple of SKUs. So our multivitamin packs, and it's called VitaPack 30 Plus, has gone viral a number of times now on TikTok. And it is because we created a groundswell of creator and influencer content to drive that up. But now what we're doing is pulling that content in also onto the site. We have that SKU also available on Amazon, and we are seeing that halo effect now. So, up to 20% of halo to other channels when we are seeing sales spike on TikTok. And I've heard as high as 30-40% from other retailers. And so that success is entirely driven, I'd say, from UGC, both creators and influencers. And then to extend that into consideration, even drive to purchase, is utilizing it more for paid ads. And so increasingly, we are seeing creator content and video content, like what Mena said, as the best performing creative type for us. And so we'll take various creator content, cut it down into smaller pieces, or bring in an actual review quote on a static ad. And those have been performing really well for us at product levels and at brand levels. And I think it's because it's a version of kind of extending that personalization. And like, if you relate to the person you're seeing as that creator, it makes me more likely to believe them, and also kind of filters down that product is right for me. So we're all in on this area right now.
And Vivian, when you refer to creators, you're referring to customers who are creating content, as opposed to like influencers, who are being paid to create content. Is that the way you distinguish it?
We do kind of all tiers. So we've got influencers who we make sure it is authentic. So it is influencers who are already taking protein powders, and we have them try ours, and so they are. We make sure that they're authentic reviews. We have creators that are paid or incentivized with free product to go out and create things, and then we also have it where anybody can tag GNC and have your photo, submit a smoothie recipe, whatever else it is. And so we really go kind of full funnel on where we're sourcing that content right now.
Got it. Makes a lot of sense. And Sabrina, when we were on the prep call, you were talking about how you guys are used influencers for Valentine's Day. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, absolutely. We tested a lot of things around Valentine's Day because we wanted really to turn it into a big event for us, and it was not yet. So it's been 2 years or 3 years that we test, a few things. But I would say the successful, ingredients have been a combination between like influencers and content creators plus activations. This year we had like our theme was love from New York because we're based, designed, and most of our manufacturing is here in New York. So we wanted to work with like influencers and content creators around New York and connect with New Yorkers. So we did a partnership with an influencer called Street Heart. She organizes some like very fun speed dating moments within New York City. And we brought also Robert Rush. For those who know him, he was part of Love Island. And you were able to speed date, in New York, like on Times Square, on, Union Square, etc., quickly and spend time with them. These moments might seem silly. In a lot of companies, you're just like, yeah, well, that's brand marketing, that's awareness. It's not, because if it's combined very specifically to a campaign, a theme that you're developing, that you have content creators also creating their own content to feed the campaign, that is very successful. So if you're able to really mix it out and like have some activations also to connect individually with customers, because that is something that we feel bring the authentic aspect of what we want to do, that is very successful. So in terms of sales, we've seen Valentine's Day growing and growing again. So you can expect Hanky Panky to show up also in creative ways for next Valentine's Day.
That's awesome.
I just interject really quickly, because I think what Vivian and Sabrina both brought up, and the theme there is they're not pulling one lever. They're pulling many levers, and they're making sure that that storytelling is happening across those levers, and they're not over-indexing in place, hoping for the best. They've really done multiple things to make sure that they're, again, hitting that customer where they are in their journey, creating experiences, to Sabrina's point, offline, that create that brand affinity, that build that trust, that make it feel like an authentic experience. It's not just about a product anymore. It's about that full experience. Can I be attached to this brand? Do I want to keep coming back? And that, what they've articulated, is doing that really beautifully.
Yeah, that activation piece is so key to, right, in order to get the content, maybe outside of influencers, but just like customers who are going to create content, thinking about activation as part of any campaign that you have, so that they can take an experience and then create content for you because they're so excited, right? That's entirely genuine. And those activations, so that you're not just having to go out and source with influencers, but allowing your customers to be the creators for you, that activation piece is so key.
And Amanda, to add to that, when you do that, we had also a track going through New York with a QR code. So you can, flash the QR code, like put your photo there with your loved one and be able to get, giveaways. And we partner with a lot of other brands. So yes, it's just like, how do you amplify something that might happen just in one place and create kind of the content through this that can live through weeks, more than just a campaign that you will get, in New York and just for 1 week, and that's done.
And then syndicate.
Well, so actually, so you guys gave like a few examples of how you created campaigns and how you worked to activate your consumers. I think a lot of brands struggle to kind of create this high quality UGC, but how do you? I'm going to shift this question a little bit, because I think you guys gave some examples of how you're creating the high quality UGC. But on a prep call, Vivian also talked about using AI to help source some of the creators that you end up working with. Vivian, can you talk about that for a second?
Yeah, I think actually AI for finding the source of content is one of the most interesting use cases, because I think there's a little bit of hesitation of, we don't want to use AI too much on the consumer facing side of things and have it be inauthentic. So there are tools out there now where, very literally, I could say, woman who works out, who's holding a smoothie in a gym, into the tool, and it will give me like, here are all these Instagram posts of people who meet that criteria, right? And it used to be our social team or the social agency had to go out and like comb through hundreds of lists of influencer names, right, to see who are the right fit. I think from an internal time saving, but also being able to translate a vision into production, that AI use case is one that I'm very excited about. And back to how we're using, I think all of us using both creator influencer content into paid ads, again, now you can kind of curate for what you're looking for or the demographic or profile that you're trying to target.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's amazing, like, Nina talked about summaries, AI summaries. It's amazing how AI can also help you find, like, scan through what would be like a lot of effort to find the right person and help you find kind of that right target. I want to direct the next question to Amanda. It relates to this. But you have a unique way of collecting testimonials that is almost a little bit old school. Could you talk about that, Amanda?
Yeah, absolutely. We have a very, very passionate founder who is still involved with the brand. And so some of our recent campaigns, he went out onto a Spartan race course in the middle of the course. People are just, trucking up a mountain and like stopped people and was asking them, direct questions about their experience. It was very authentic, like totally unplanned. And then in addition to that, he has his own website. And so on that website, there's a huge CTA. It's the main CTA of the entire website. And it's send me a message. And you can send directly messages to him. And then what will happen is with their permission, right, he'll share that out. And I mean, people will come to his website, been so changed by the experience that they are sending him long letters about how Spartan changed their lives, pictures of their families, people overcoming addiction. And he loves what he does. He's so very passionate about it and just opens up that conversation to anyone to share their story with him. I think there were some questions about incentive, right? I mean, the guy who created it, right, who's well known in the space, Joe DeSena, is a great way. And then he responds back. I've seen this. And so that's, for someone to like hear your story, right, about your company, and then you respond to them is such a great incentive. And it shows that we really care. Like the mission at Spartan is to rip 100 million people off of the couch. And he, 15, 16, 17 years later is like still living and breathing that. So it's a very unique way that we go out and source that user generated content.
That's awesome. And that does kind of create an interesting incentive. Mina, we have two audience questions that I want to kind of interject here. One is from Jenna Irwin. She's the Director of Measurement Solutions at Ovative. And she asked, what have you found as the most effective way to incentivize individuals if you don't have a founder who's willing to answer questions like Amanda does? And then related, and I'm going to pose both of these. It's from Jenna Zhang, Vice President of Luxury Retail Marketing at Tom Ford Beauty at Estee Lauder Companies. She wants to know what have you found is the best way to address negative reviews? So how do you incentivize reviews and how do you address negative reviews?
Yeah, so I think there's multiple ways you can incentivize. I love the idea of what Amanda's got going on with her CEO. She can get them incentivized and there's no cost, or it's somewhat low effort. And I wish that for all of us. It's not as realistic as I would have hoped to have been. So I think there's a couple different levers that you can pull. You can incentivize them through free product. That's usually the biggest one, is like, hey, give this product a try. And from an FTC guideline standpoint, I know that's over there in the chat, it needs to be real. You can hate the product. That's fine. Please just leave us a real, honest review. And then I think the other one is finding ways to create experiences for them. So one is that they can, you can give them $5, $10, $15, $25 to leave reviews. You can enter them into sweepstakes to leave reviews. There's also the opportunity through BB, you can have them go in store, purchase something, and they can leave a review so they're going home with the product. And there's a variety of ways to make that affordable. But I think what it is gamifying. That's another thing, like in-app gamification or loyalty programs. Hey, we'll give you X number of loyalty points if you'll leave us a review. And so there's a lot of ways you can extend an offering to say, hey, look, we would love a review, and we'll give you something in exchange for that. But really, we want your honest opinion. it doesn't have to be that you love the product. I think that's where some consumers are getting a little bit shy around reviews because they see, hey, this was left as, I was paid for this, I was given free product for this. And I don't know that they need to be wary of that. They are real reviews. And I think there's another question in here, how do you negate sort of negative reviews? I don't know that you want to. I think you actually need negative reviews for your consumers to understand that, one, these are legitimate reviews, regardless if they've been incentivized. And two, like, you can trust me. We're going to tell you the good, the bad, and the ugly. We want to get the right product in your hands for whatever it is that whatever moment you're having in your life. And so I wouldn't touch your negative reviews. I would let them live alongside your good reviews. But what I would do is take a look at your negative reviews and use that as an understanding around what's happening with your product. And that can be a number of things. It can be quality issues, it could be color, it could be taste, it could be packaging, it could be delivery. There could be a multitude of things that are happening that your consumers are telling you. Take that back to your cross-functional teams and make your product better. Because it's not just about conversion impact. It's mainly about that for the purposes of this conversation, but it really is a powerful listening tool that you can use to better your product and ultimately better your consumers' interaction with your brand.
Yeah, that's a great.
Keep it really brief, but I think on the review part, one kind of thing that I found successful for brands, also make the review process painless. So I've seen AI where they will suggest themes of common reviews and like shortening the word count for a review to be accepted. So like very small things can drive much higher kind of successful conversion rate on the reviews. And we're doing exactly what you said, Mina. The product, physical product innovation team really reads those reviews and takes it into future formulations of our protein powders, our creatine. And so the more we do that, I think the more consumers know that their voices are being heard.
And so many people don't know you can use AI to summarize the reviews also and bring it to your product team.
Those are the best. Those AI summaries, I love those because you can go back and read the details, but just to give a sense of where people think the strengths and weaknesses of the product are, I think it's incredibly critical.
You can even, go into ChatGPT, give it the URL to a page and say, hey, what is the general sentiment for this? Pull out a 5-star review and a 1-star review. I've used that too for app store reviews and things like that. I just give it a URL and I'm like, give me the highlights. What's up?
And actually, that's a great supplement to what Vivian shared earlier, because by doing that, it kind of gets the data in a more concise way for your cross-functional teams to understand, what are some of the core themes that your consumers are seeing and what you can do to potentially improve your product. I feel like this went so fast and we could go on for easily another half an hour, but unfortunately we're out of time. Mina, Vivian, Sabrina, and Amanda, thank you so much for joining us and for sharing your insights today. Just to summarize some of the things that we discussed, although we covered a lot more, while UGC can be used throughout the customer journey, we've seen it's primarily used in acquisition and to drive conversion on the PDP. I think Mina did an excellent job showing how AI can help make sure the right content reaches the right customer at the right time by kind of featuring that content in the right moment contextually. And you can also use AI to summarize reviews and to source content creators. So it's not just about personalization. There's other uses for AI. The whole goal of this webinar was just to give you some examples of how, we want to create these human experiences, but at the same time, AI can help us automate and make sure the right experiences are delivered to consumers. So thank you for joining us. I want to remind you that we'll be back on May 21st with our webinar on Shopify for Enterprises featuring Steve Madden and Run D2C. We look forward to seeing you all soon. Take care.